Hi, Yeshua.
Hello, Erin.
Hi.
Hi, okay. I was wondering if that was you or Patricia.
Yes, it's me. Should I admit Aminat?
Hold on a second. I need to put on my earpiece.
All right, I'm going to email Patricia and tell her I'm on the call with her. Login.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So, let me see. Okay, you came in first, right? So
Yes.
that means you've taken over my my function as okay. I think two people are in the waiting room. Who are those? I think
Aminat
okay,
and Aminat.
okay, I guess she's using two devices because I spoke to them as regards the challenges we had when we had the last one. So she told her to make sure she has a very stable connection. So I guess she's trying to use maybe two different devices. So let me pause. So we have people from the United States and from Africa here today. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very, very much for joining today's webinar titled Digitize with IBM, with the topic Leveraging Data Science and Analytics to Create Solutions. Before we move any further, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Aminat Babalola from IBM West Africa. She's the University Relations Analyst. Aminat, would you just like to say a quick hi to all our participants?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Aminat. Also, I have with me two of my colleagues from Reconnect International HQ in the United States of America. I have Chaylene on this webinar and I have Erin. Ladies, would you like to say hi to our participants also?
Hi.
Hi.
Now, for both of them, I think Chaylene, your time is like 4:30 a.m. or 5:30 a.m., right?
It's 5 a.m. now.
it's 5 a.m. And
Yep.
Erin, your time is what?
It's 8 a.m. So
it's 8 a.m. Yeah, okay. So you ladies just have lots of coffee and we're good to go. Thank you everybody for joining this webinar. Now, interestingly, this is a topic that most people find difficult to wrap their minds around because they think that data science and analytics is strictly for the IT people. But actually, it isn't. It's something that's very, very valuable to your business in helping you determine the direction you will take. However, before we move further, I'd like to quickly remind us all of the key, these are changing periods. We're dealing with COVID-19 across the world. Please remember to stay safe. Remember to sanitize your hands at all regularly. Remember to maintain social distancing, hygiene standards, and we're very certain that we'll beat this globally, and very soon we'll all be able to have more physical training events. So with that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Yeshua Russell. I sit in Abuja, Nigeria. I represent WeConnect International in Nigeria. WeConnect International is a global organization that identifies and certifies women-owned businesses, training them, building their capacity, and then linking them to opportunities coming from our corporate members. Our corporate members are large global corporations like IBM itself, that has a commitment to buy from women-owned businesses or to do transactional businesses with women-owned businesses. And that's what WeConnect International is all about. If you're on this webinar and you haven't yet registered with WeConnect, you're missing out on a lot. I would advise you to, as soon as we're through with this webinar, jump in to our website and register. Erin and Chelin will be placing the registration link for WeConnect on the chat function. Please remember to mute your microphones at all times. If you have any questions whatsoever for Aminat, feel free to place it in the chat function. Aminat, would you like to introduce yourself to to our participants very quickly?
Okay, yeah. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone again. My name is Aminat Babalola, and like Joshua said, I work with IBM West Africa as the University Relations Analyst. And part of what we are trying to do in IBM, so IBM, a lot of people who have heard about IBM before will probably know from, hardware, all those, chunky laptops, your typewriters, from the, onsets of hardware. But IBM has actually gone through a lot of changes. I mean, one thing that's constant in life is change. So one thing we're doing right now is we've transformed or transitioned into cloud applications, cloud solutions. So we've seen about how it's really important to be able to provide these solutions to all our customers, our users, by putting it in a more accessible source. So what we do now is, try to look at how we can leverage emerging technologies, things like blockchain, artificial intelligence, data science, and analytics, Internet of Things. So these emerging technologies that are really sought after right now and is really influencing the markets. I mean, we all know that we're moving towards a digital space, and in order to keep yourself relevant, you have to find some sort of digital anchor. So just like Joshua had said, it's not necessarily about being a technical person. You don't have to be a computer scientist or an engineer, regardless of where you are, whatever field you are in life. Emerging technologies are there to assist you and make life easier, make your businesses flow better, which would then bring me to what IBM is working on, called the Digital Nation Africa platform and program. So this just helps you be able to skill up across key emerging technologies. So like I mentioned, like blockchain, AI, data science, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and not just digital skills, but also to make a well-rounded professional. We've seen that it's necessary to have, some certain soft skills as well, things like effective collaboration. I mean, that's something we actually had in the Monday session. Interpersonal skills, delivering work with agility, and so forth. So the platform is like a one-stop shop for everything. It lets you be able to find jobs. It allows you to upskill, and it allows you to be innovative at the same time, to see how you could, look at the problems you have and try to come up with solutions with the help of the emerging technologies which we offer, and all the resources which we've offered all for free on the platform. So in a nutshell, that is, what IBM is really doing now, and what we're bringing to you today. Okay, so over to you, Yeshua.
Thank you very, very much, Aminat, for that very concise description of what IBM is doing. I would also like to point out that IBM is one of WeConnect International's key partners in this region. You've been with WeConnect over the years. IBM also sits on the WeConnect International Advisory Council Board in Nigeria and has been very involved in efforts to empower women-owned businesses in Nigeria and indeed globally. IBM has also provided very graciously a special URL link for our WeConnect members to access the DNA, Digital Nations Africa platform. Now, as Aminat has explained, this platform provides a whole, I'll call it it's a tsunami of digital knowledge. You get in there. I know it's fantastic because my kids are on there right now, and they're learning a great lot of stuff. And you can get access to that using our own specialized link, which will be shared in the course of this event. As she also said, many people think that data analysts, this course is strictly for data scientists. I remember a story of an old friend who said he was a data analyst / statistician. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I mean, is that how statistician, right? That's correct, right?
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if you're one of those type of people. And then his wife put to bed, and she had a set of twins, one boy and one girl. And then they were taking the babies for baptism. So I called and said, "Hey, hi guys, I'll be at the baptism on Sunday. He said, yeah, I'm a statistician. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one for baptism. I'm going to keep one at home as a control. Now, that's something that only accounting and mathematics and statistical people would like to do. So that's the thinking behind that's how many people think that that's what this is. It's purely for IT people. But I like to reiterate that it's something that helps you determine where you're being profitable, where you might be wasting resources, how to innovate, and how to actually track market trends within the market you're operating. With that, I would like to hand over to Aminat to proceed with her presentation right now. Aminat, the floor is handed over to you. Thank you very much. So I'll stop sharing so you can proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Yeshua. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now. So we can go to the platform where we'll be learning about all these amazing things and the Digital Nation Africa platform. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, so we should all be able to see my screen. Before we go into the nitty-gritties, just to give us a general overview, I mean, when we talk about data science or when we talk about data in general, data is basically just information. We all deal with data every day in the course of our lives and the course of our interactions with people, from whatever we do, from business to our personal lives. And when we talk about data interpretation or like the fundamentals of analysis itself, it's just about how do you make meaning out of that data. Like we have enough information. We are currently producing more data each day than the previous day. So everyone is generating data from different positions, but we need to say, okay, what do we do with that data? How do we make meaning out of that data? Like Yeshua rightly mentioned, how do we even determine certain market trends? How do you actually just have something meaningful? Because without having any direction or any meaning or knowing how to manipulate the data, then the information is useless. So it's more about how you can make use of the data, how you can extract that information from the data and see how you can make it into useful resources. So we'll first be looking at a number of case studies, so see how data science is being applied across various industries, and we'll first start with business of data, just understanding how data works in the business world. Okay.
While it's difficult to put a price tag on the global economic burden of diseases like asthma, it's clear that improving access to preventative care is a key part of the solution. In the US alone, 2 million asthma sufferers will land in the emergency room due to preventable attacks, and $50 billion a year is spent on asthma, with hospital visits as the largest contributor. So what if we could identify patterns behind these attacks and prevent them, saving billions of dollars in unnecessary suffering? Meet Sophia. She's a data scientist at Apex Analytics, studying trends in the field of biomedical research. She's been working on a project involving weather data and pollen, a known asthma trigger. So when Sophia's colleague Jane mentions her son's recent hospitalization for an asthma attack, Sophia wonders if the dramatic seasonal change over the weekend was a trigger. And if so, could weather forecasts predict when patients are at a higher risk of an attack? Jane is intrigued by Sophia's hypothesis, and as an offering manager, she gets approval to research an application that could be sold as an alert service. Together, Sophia and Jane gather preliminary business and academic information, discovering that Sophia's theory has not been validated, but if they find a link, this could be a breakthrough for patients and related healthcare businesses. Sophia decides to move forward with her research and approaches her data engineer, Greg, to determine how to proceed. They'll need a combination of data. Internal data can be sourced from earlier Apex research using electronic medical records. The records on asthma-related emergency visits they'll need are considered privileged and have to be extracted and kept private. They will also look at external data sources such as pollution and weather data that are publicly available. With the right data set secured, Sophia and Greg begin to clean and process the data, a task sometimes called data wrangling. This involves removing irrelevant data points and putting the right information into a format so it can be easily analyzed later. The next step is data exploration. Sophia looks for relevant location and time-specific correlations. For example, she compares wind patterns with past asthma records to see if the spread of pollen correlated to a high outbreak. Sophia's findings support her hypothesis, so she begins feature selection and model selection to create a predictive model. Based on the correlations, she selects features in the data that are the most useful and relevant to predicting asthma outbreaks. Now that the model is set, Sophia starts to cross-validate by dividing her data and conducting multiple tests for accuracy. If those tests perform well, Sophia runs a test on an entirely new set of data the model hasn't seen. After successful testing, Sophia has quantified what specific weather conditions are strongly tied to the onset of severe asthma attacks. And now that she has created a model to accurately predict those conditions, she can deploy it to create an alert application that will benefit patients and businesses. With the help of Greg and other software and DevOps engineers, they turn Sophia's model into the accessible Application Programming Interface, or API, that will service the alerts. Meanwhile, Jane, as the offering manager, starts telling her clients about the new application and how it can be of use to them and their business. For insurance companies, it's fewer expensive ER visits when their patients are prepared. For hospital administrators, it's cost savings and smarter staffing of specialists. For pharmacies, it's higher customer loyalty and engagement when they alert customers to get their prescriptions on time. And finally, for people like Jane and her son, it's being able to enjoy the seasonal weather.
Okay, so I mean, we just saw from that in a nutshell. I mean, the main character there, who was Jane, wasn't even a data scientist per se, but she was able to still be involved in that data process, and they were able to, interpret the data and do some data mining. So what is data mining essentially? It's just being able to examine large pre-existing data to generate information. So what they're able to do, like you saw, was they pulled from different sources, from the weather, from all different places, to see how they could make meaning out of the data and use it to come up with a solution that would profit everyone and make life easier for everyone. So when we talk about, data, there are different types of data. So it comes in different forms, two main forms. So we have structured, we have unstructured, and we also have semi-structured. So when we talk about structured data are just organized data. So they come in a predefined format. So they are mostly quantitative. So I'll give you an example. Things like your names, dates, addresses, and stuff like that. And when we talk about unstructured data, we have more like qualitative data. So things that don't have a predefined format. So when you have like your videos, your images, your social media feeds, those kind of information are all unstructured data, and they are all accessed or manipulated in different ways. So next we'll be looking at defining the future of data, and just to see what the world is saying. I mean, I don't know if anyone has heard about this term, but I've heard about it a lot, and people say data is the new oil. So there is so much, promise for data if you're willing to acknowledge it.
I see the jobs in the data era shifting to be about data science. It's not so much about infrastructure, but it's about insight. How do we get insight out of the data? And that's what a data scientist does. In the data era, every problem is a data problem. So that's what gets me excited every morning. It's about how do we apply technology, how do we apply skill, and how do we apply insight to get to better outcomes. And it's really interesting. If you just reframe your mindset around every problem is a data problem, because ultimately it is, you really start to see the kind of impact you have. It's a totally different world. It's being defined by data, and the people that are going to have the biggest impact in this world are people that know what to do with the data, and that's the data scientist.
So I'm sure we just saw from that, he just talked about, the people who would have more impact in the future, and the people who we actually call data scientists, and not necessarily those who, went to school for it, but it's people who know what to do with the data, how to process that data, how to mine that data, how to evaluate that data, and then come up with, insights that help solve problems, or come up with solutions that can be able to cater to the problems in our societies. Okay, so we're going to look at some real life case studies so we can see how it's actually been applied. So not just in the technical field, but across, different agencies. So we could see, first of all, we looked at it from the health perspective, and now we're going to look at it from the form of predicting, Okay, so let me take a step back. So before we talk about, extracting information from data, there are certain things you need to take into consideration. So apart from the structure of the data, if it's structured or unstructured, you also need to take the process of that information. So when you talk about the insights you're trying to gain, you have to look at 3 different forms. So when we talk about data analytics, there's what we call descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. So for descriptive, it's all focused on, things that have already happened. So things that have happened in the past, how can you use that information, those data, and be able to create insight or create more information. For predictive, it's, what could happen. So you're trying to predict the future. So things like even, how we have our Google Maps and how they take different information and then use it to kind of predict, okay, well, will traffic be here? What route should you take? So this is something we all interact with, on a day-to-day basis in our lives. And lastly, we have prescriptive, which is focused on what should happen. So you've gotten that information, you know what has happened. You may not be necessarily looking into what could happen, but you're trying to see what should happen. How do you prescribe, certain responses or certain insights based on a situation or based on the data? And I'm sure we'll be wondering, going back to data, I would like us to know there's a fact that 80% of data is actually unstructured. So the most information, so going back to when we even mentioned, getting information on market trends, a lot of this information is gotten from unstructured data because unstructured data actually gives us more data insights. So if you're looking at getting market trends or looking at getting, the most information or the most insight, unstructured data gives this information to us. Okay, so we'll look at this example of predictive analysis and see how they're able to predict environmental changes in real time. So when we say real time, we mean as it is. So right now, not in 2 hours, not in 1 day, but as it is at the current time. Okay.
We do a lot of monitoring of micrometeorological conditions in the forest and outside of the forest. We don't see a separation between atmosphere, soil, and vegetation. It's a continuum. When I started this project, I didn't have an idea of the amount of data that I was collecting.
We have 40 nodes, maybe 3 sensors per node. And some sites, we call them super sites, we have well over 200 optical sensors.
So we focus a lot about real-time big data, how to analyze huge volume of data in real times. So we came up with a platforms. It's a kind of middleware software that was created in our department and now it's part of the IBM product line.
Previously, we would have to rely a lot on teams to go into the field, collect the data, and what would normally take me weeks just slaving over data, I can now show them in real time. So we have the ability to really have our eyes in the field from here.
The way we analyze carbon is the direction of where carbon is moving. So we do that with our streaming analytics to see if carbon moving up or moving down from the trees.
If I want to know how much carbon a forest is absorbing, it may take 6 months to find out. With IBM, I know in real time.
We get continuous measurements 24 hours for 365 days. We're not only looking at a few hectares, we're able to expand this to whole regions of a country.
If we can actually predict that a drought is present, let's say 100 days before an executive decree by a government that declares that it's a drought, you can have 100 days ahead for planning and adaptation. It's allowing us to actually have more impact on policy. I see in the next 5 years better visualization techniques, better apps, better training of graduate students, and a better understanding of full ecosystem processes that we don't have today.
Okay, so you see that is another example, that cuts across a whole different, a whole different department. So not health, and this is more about environmental changes. So you could see how they were able to, predict, weather conditions. So predict, for example, if there's going to be a drought in 100 years, how do they take out the information? So going back to, like I mentioned, descriptive, predictive, prescriptive. So they're able to take from descriptive, that's the data from things that happened. So look at, let's say, okay, in the last 10 years and the last 100 years, for example, let's look at the weather trends, let's look at the environmental changes, take that information, that data which is unstructured, and see how we can mine it, see how we can analyze it and be able to predict the environmental changes in real time, so we can know, okay, in a few months, in a few years, we're going to have drought, and what does that help them to? Because in the end, it's all about the outcome. What are they doing with that information? What is the cause of that whole data analysis or the whole data mining or manipulation? So they're able to say, okay, we can use this to make ourselves, more informed, make ourselves more ready. Just like the health example, also prepare better for it. So how do we put things in place? So we need to, set up whatever we need to do in preparation for the changes that are coming. So, it doesn't just catch them unawares, and they're more prepared to handle the situations. So in a nutshell, that was just an example that just shows it from the predictive aspect. The first one I would say is prescriptive, because they're trying to sort of prescribe. So with the app, they ended up coming with the data mining and interpretation. They're able to say, okay, yeah, we can now prevent that inrush of patients coming in. So it helps everyone. It helps the patients also, so their families can be able to say, okay, yeah, maybe in May, in April, this is the time where asthma attacks will be more on the rise. So we know that we're not just rushing in, or we're not caught unawares and someone just has an attack. We go in time, we go to the hospital, we go there and get the drugs we need, get your inhalers and everything, and you're ready. And also on the other hand, so the hospital is more equipped to handle them. They don't have that inrush of patients they can't actually cater to, so they know they have they can order for all the necessary drugs in the right proportion. So they don't say, okay, you come in and, oh, sorry, we're out of drugs, or we're out of this and this. And it also helps insurance company also to be well prepared to know, okay, yes, this is when we need to be on the rise and be on the lookout for those people who have registered with us for their health insurance, and see how they'll be coming in now for different health issues, and they would need us to obviously cover them. So it's just a 360 approach that protects everyone who is involved. So not necessarily a tech person, but it just helps to make the world a better place, helps make life easier for everyone. Okay, I hope you're noting on our questions and all that, and we're taking notes. So next, we'll look at another case study, which to me is more of a personal, and also it could be a learning related matter. So we'll look at some Girl Scouts and see how they're able to leverage big data to see how they could work on their retention and membership rates.
Girl Scouts is a great thing to do, and I would recommend it to any girl. It's probably changed my life, thinking differently, thinking how could I help other people. It's made me learn how to give myself goals and how to work towards it.
Girls are 50% of the population, but they aren't 50% of leadership roles.
10% of all girls are Girl Scouts, but those 10% go on to represent 80% of women in executive leadership roles. So it means that we're doing something right. But nationally, we've been losing members really for about a decade.
My personal reaction when I saw the numbers declining and began to study the reasons why, I knew, for example, on an aggregate level that Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania retained 53% of its girl members. That's all I knew, because I just didn't have the expertise at that point to dig deeper.
We have learned through our IBM grant that girls who are more engaged actually stay with the Girl Scouts longer.
It's obviously the girls that sell the cookies, the girls that attend the programs.
They're learning financial planning, they're learning inventory management, how to communicate with others, sales. So they're learning financial literacy. It's a really big part of how a girl develops some leadership skills.
The predictive analytics showed us what girls tend to stay with Girl Scouts longer. Everything that we do and everything that we pull leads towards how do we keep those members on board.
Now, because of the influence of IBM and big data, I can tell you that we began the year at a 76% retention rate for girls. The information is there. If we want to sustain Girl Scouting, we've got to marry big data and analytics with the work that we do on the ground.
IBM gave us the opportunity to pull data from all of those different databases, put it into one place in SPSS. This gives us the opportunity to base decisions on actual data so we can see real trends and move forward.
I think the IBM SPSS software solution is certainly going to support our mission, because now we don't have to just rely upon Excel spreadsheets to try to extrapolate future growth and try to develop trend lines.
My boss is thrilled that I can give her better reports that mean something more to us now than it did a year ago.
This is not your mom's Girl Scouts. This isn't even this Girl Scout that I had when I was a brownie. This is really an organization that's building up the next generation of leaders.
role model is my mom. She's pretty inspiring, and I want to be a Girl Scout leader like her.
I've always tried to show her that you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. It teaches them values, morals, also how to be better people all around.
There was seamless work between IBM on the global business services side as well as corporate citizenship, and then how that all blended together with the IBM SPSS software. I felt like we were working with colleagues of the Girl Scouts.
We learned more about ourselves than we knew. It's a great opportunity. It takes a lot of work, and we're prepared for it because we're Girl Scouts.
Okay, so that was a very good another case study, a real life example of just seeing how people are already leveraging data science and analytics. I'll be going further later on to just give us a list of certain IBM tools and services that are available for data analysis. But from this example, we could even look at it from a teaching perspective. Imagine if in a class you're trying to say, okay, or predict who in the class will be most likely to come out first, second, or third at the end of the term or the end of the session. There are certain, criteria or certain factors or attributes that, can help you be able to predict that information. So things like, okay, who is doing more in the class, who is submitting their assignments on time, who is, doing more extracurricular work, who is, getting the highest grades on their tests, who is getting the highest grades on their assignments, and just in terms of, general participation, because in the end, it is those different attributes that you could use to predict, because those are the things that, end up giving you that insight or that make up, that person you're trying to fish out. So you could also use it from the business point of view in terms of, customer retention and all that. And you want to see, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Based on certain information, the data you have. So going back again, data is just information. So we'd have certain information or data about the business, and you can say, okay, this is about my customers. I know how to go about, with customer segmentation, how to be able to, even, pinpoint, who you should be, putting more information, putting more efforts into, providing a better experience for them. So that is just, a summary, a brief summary of, how that could even be applied across, the business point of view or even, a teaching point of view. Okay, so we have one last case study. And this has to do with, energy costs. So I will talk about, here in, the hotter regions or in Nigeria, for example, what we are more focused about is, getting fans, getting air conditioning because, it's really hot. But we have, people, and I'm sure a lot of us who are in the US or, other, countries where it's more cold, we can be able to tell that we put a lot of money into maintaining heat. So it's more about, okay, buying your heaters, paying for the gas, and you're putting more money into getting heat, getting warmer while we were trying to get, colder. But at that point, you have to, when you're already paying for that amount of heat, you need to focus on how you can be able to maximize that heat. So imagine you have a church, for example, and you say, okay, you pay monthly for, for the heating. You need to say, okay, you can't just expect that heating you're paying for will be just covered on Sundays when you have your Sunday services. To maximize that, that heat you're providing, or to maximize, and cut down on your energy costs, you have to see how you can, do more things. Maybe have, weekly services, maybe have meetings, maybe have, Bible studies, have things like that that actually bring people into the building more, and they can be able to make use of that heat. And of course, there are certain, factors that contribute to having, if you're looking at it from a data science or analysis point of view, you need to look at things like, okay, how high are the ceilings, how wide are the windows? So there are all this information, but in the end, it's all data. Data is just, at the core point, data is just information. So I just wanted to break it down for us so it's more clearer when we listen to it.
is Turanj. I lead the engineering operation at BlockPower. We use technology to transform inner city buildings, low-income neighborhoods, and small businesses to become energy efficient, environmentally friendly, and healthy for the residents, owners, and surrounding neighborhoods.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. My team and I got involved in this very interesting project with BlockPower. When Turaj came to us and described his business problem, we said, well, this is the perfect solution to build out with Watson Data Platform and Watson Cognitive Services. So I learned a thing or two about buildings. Looks like there is a relationship between the thermal mass of a building and how the building is used. What is thermal mass? It is the amount of heat that is held by the structure. Stone has got high thermal mass, which means that there is a lot of energy that has to be spent to heat up that structure. The structure holds that heat before people can use the insides of the church in a comfortable way. Now think about what is the least efficient way to use a building with high thermal mass, to use it sporadically. If you have a church with high thermal mass, and you open up the doors of the church only on Sunday mornings, you have to heat up that whole structure just for the 2 or 3 hours that that building is being used. Not very efficient. However, with a church that holds heat in its structure, if the utilization or the use of that building is much higher, for example, they may be running a soup kitchen or maybe opening up the doors for social activities, the energy efficiency actually tends to be better. I am in the data science experience tool of the Watson Data Platform. It allows a data scientist at BlockPower to bring in historical data and do some exploratory analysis with that data. So in my notebook, I am looking at what factors affect the energy efficiency of buildings. The metric I'm working with is EUI. It is a common metric that describes the energy efficiency of a building. The higher the EUI value, the less efficient that building is. And you can see that in the graph here. I'm looking at buildings across the 5 boroughs of New York City, and the higher EUI values are shaded in darker colors. And you can see that Bronx has got a lot of high EUI or low efficiency buildings. Not surprising because Bronx has got a lot of old stone buildings. Scroll down. Let's look at the distribution of these buildings. Looks like about 50% of them are brick, 30% are stone, and about 20% are concrete. Now look at how I have done these visualizations. A single line of code. The Brunel visualization library lets me create these very compelling visualizations without having to do a lot of programming. But these are all interesting observations, but there are no real insights yet till you look deeper at the relationship between different factors, different attributes, and EUI. Let's take a look at some other observations. This one shows me the relationship between heating systems and heat distribution systems. Here I have the relationship between high ceilings and big windows. Let's move on to this final graph here. You're seeing the power of unsupervised machine learning at play. My analysis is telling me that there are 3 distinct clusters of church buildings: low EUI, medium, and high EUI. When I click on the low EUI one, it tells me the factors that are significant to that particular cluster. Not that old, gas furnaces, and so on. If I look at the high EUI ones, I see other factors that contribute to the behavior of that church. As a data scientist, my analysis has shown me that there are different clusters, types of buildings in terms of energy efficiency. So if I can build a machine learning model and deploy that, when I have a new church come in, I can score that church against the machine learning model to understand how efficient that church is going to be. We will look at how to create that machine learning model. You can take a programmatic approach, or you can take the more democratized approach that IBM provides. So let's take a look at that. So here I have a guided, a visual way to create my machine learning model. I am in the pipeline artifact of DSX, and I can bring in my data, see a preview of that data. There are transformers that I can work with to change or work with that initial data. I can decide what features from my data set should be used in the machine learning model. Let's create a few models and look at how they compare in terms of performance. I'm going to build 3 different logistic regression models. They have different features being used from my data set. When I compare the performance of them, I can see visually that one of my models has got very good performance. The area under the rock curve is 0.98, extremely good. When I do that, with my untrained data, I can see that the model still behaves very good. The performance is very high, and I am now satisfied that this model will behave well enough for me to deploy and operationalize. With a single click, I can deploy this. It gives me an endpoint and API key. These are the only 2 pieces of information that my app developer needs to know. So I'm going to pass this information on to the app developer team.
This is where the power of technology and innovation comes in. So we said, what if we make the knowledge and expertise of our engineers accessible to everyone via their mobile phones? In other words, every building owner, manager, and tenant can have an engineer friend who can guide them on how to conduct a technical survey of their buildings, identify replacement measures to reduce their bills, and evaluate their costs and benefits. We also wanted this virtual engineer to be interactive and intelligent. So we decided to talk to our friends at IBM and to see what solutions they can offer us.
BlockPower has partnered with a company that builds mobile applications using a platform called Harmony built on Compose. The app development team uses these APIs to invoke the machine learning model that has been built and deployed. What if you could engage the end user in a more compelling way? We are going to use Watson Conversation Services and Watson Image Recognition and extract information from the superintendent about the church, enough information to build a profile of that church, and then invoke the machine learning model and get a score back in terms of how energy efficient it is. We took the best of machine learning and deep learning and brought them together, the best of Watson Data Platform and Watson Cognitive Services, working together to build a compelling solution for BlockPower.
Okay, so we've just seen as our last case study, we're able to see, just how powerful, data science is. And I'm sure a lot of, the thought going around a lot of people's heads would be, okay, this may be technical, but that's, what the platform IBM offers gives you the opportunity that you don't necessarily have to be a coder. It's more about just drag and drop, and it gives you a more grassroots, approach at learning to code. So we provide those codes for you. There's just more about, manipulation. So like I said, more about drag and drop. So a lot of those. So I think I'll go. Let me just touch on clustering first of all now, because I'm sure that's something we heard about. And we're wondering, okay, what are clusters? So clustering or clusters are basically just a group of objects or information that have something in common. Let's use this this webinar for example. We are a cluster of people, but we can break down into smaller clusters based on what we have in common. So maybe those who are in the same country or the same region, those who are within a certain variation of age, or those who have the same interest. Maybe you're more interested in data science or AI. So at the grassroots or in the simplest form, that is just what clustering is, or what clusters really refer to. So now I'm going to then go to the services and the software that IBM has provided for data science and analytics, because I'm sure we're all wondering, okay, this is all here, but how do we, start actually doing things to, help our businesses or, just create solutions? So from one of the videos, I'm sure we saw something about IBM SPSS. So a lot of us who have gone into Nigerian universities or so would have, had to come in contact with IBM SPSS. From the statistics point of view, because the SPSS actually has 2 parts. So it has statistics and it also has the predictive analytics modeler. So that can be used for predictive analysis. We also have, like you saw here, the Watson Conversation. It's not called Watson Conversation anymore. It's now called Watson Studio. You have the Watson Knowledge Catalog. You have Watson Visual Recognition. You have Watson Machine Learning, Watson OpenScale, a lot of these resources. And I think, let me tell you the best part about this is with that unique link, which we mentioned, we've created for Reconnect, if you click on that and you sign up for the platform, it gives you access to, when you sign up for the platform, you get access to a free Cloudlight account. This means you have access to the IBM Cloud for free, and it allows you to be able to build that sort of like your workshop where you get to build all these different solutions, and then you have access to all these different tools I've mentioned for free, which you can access, you can play around, see how to go about them. And also on the platform, just in case you're wondering, okay, I don't know where I'm going to start from, or how do I know what is what or what was does? So on the platform, we've also given you here, if you go to what we call tools, you actually have access to, demo videos, IBM demos, IBM product trials, actually. So you could actually try out the products, just see what could be done. So like I said, you have free access to IBM Cloud, and these are all resources made available to you for free. So imagine when Yeshua said, it's a lot we're already offering, and a lot you can have access to. So it's just about you being willing to, go further, being willing to learn, and, just having the hunger to come up with solutions, being more active. So you don't necessarily have to be a technical person. You just have to have that interest in learning and upskilling and, gaining the skill sets. So at this point, this will bring us to the end of the data science course. I want you to also know that for each course you take on the platform, you get a free, you get the user badge, which you could actually display on your social media pages, things like your LinkedIn, attach it to your email signature, or, just put it out there and let people see what you've done. We've heard a lot of success stories about someone saying, okay, I put this on LinkedIn, like I got my badge, I learned, and I got my badge, and, someone asked me to come speak at some event, or, I got a job, or things like that. It just gives you more visibility, and, it's accredited, and it just shows people, and it has metadata that actually shows what you've been able to learn. So not necessarily just say, okay, you learned about data science, but what did you learn? Do you know what machine learning is? Do you know what structured or structured data? Do you know how to actually go about this different analysis? So it just gives you a well-rounded perspective, and it just gives whoever is looking at that the visual view of what you've been able to gain, and what skill sets you've been able to acquire, because we all know it's not about what you have on your resume, or that's all about what can you do. So I would also indulge us to, when we keep on learning, you just need to get 80% pass mark on each of the quizzes you do, and then get your digital badge. So it's something you should add to your resumes, put on your LinkedIn pages, your email signatures, and just just show the world what you're doing, and just keep on scaling up. So I think at this point, this brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope we learned a lot. I hope, and I'm sure we have a lot of questions, which I'll be willing to respond to. Okay, so over to you, Yeshua.
Thank you very, very much, Aminat. I'm sure we're all giving her a fantastic round of applause. I was expecting this to be very, very insightful, but I was amazed at the information I got. Thank you very, very much, Aminat. Please, if you have any questions, drop them at the chat session so we can address the question. But before we go into the questions and answers session, I'd like you to know that Aminat Babalola is the Investor Relations Analyst with IBM West Africa. She's an experienced development specialist with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry. Her areas of expertise include application of innovative technology with a focus on design thinking, AI, and data analytics. While we're preparing our questions, I'll give just 1 or 2 minutes for us to, if you have any questions, drop your questions. I'd like to hammer on a few things that I learned during this webinar. Now, I'm very sure every other person saw this, the story about the Girl Scouts in the United States. And when the lady mentioned that they had a 53% retention rate. Now, when they began to utilize big data, analytics, and science, they entered the new year with 76% retention rate, which is a 23% growth, direct growth on their retention. Meaning, and the lady mentioned that we need to marry big data with the work we do on the ground. Now, for most businesses, at this point in time. Now, remember, she said something that she noticed that they had 53% retention rate, but that's all she knew. From all the data that they were receiving, that's all she knew. They didn't know how to translate the information and the data they had into identifying what makes people more loyal, what keeps people as members, what makes families, continue to be involved in the Girl Scouts. Now, I think this is the missing link for many businesses. We think we can just look at, we're selling this particular product more, and not analyze the reasons behind those sales, the reasons behind the trends in the market, the reasons behind the growth in the market. And I particularly like that, that case study. Also, I love something that Aminat said, that every problem is a data problem. And I think it's very important for us to look at our businesses as data businesses, whether you're selling a product or a service. Because every problem you're having, when you don't have sufficient data to address that problem, you can't resolve the problem. So every problem we face is a data problem. I think, and finally, data analysis helps you predict various future changes. And that's coming from the story as regards carbon emissions and being able to predict storms and drought and things like that. And accurate data analysis helps you make very precise predictions. Thank you again, Aminat, for such an insightful session. We will be sharing the special link, and I'm excited to hear that apart from the fact that our link gives you access to the DNA platform, it also gives you free IBM Cloud account. Now, I understand what that means because I've had access to a free cloud account in the past. It gives you great capacity to do great things, to test things out, to work out a lot of things over the internet. So I think we should all take that as a huge opportunity. Thank you very much again, Aminat, Babalola, and IBM for this huge opportunity. I will quickly hand over to Erin to take over the questions and answer session, which with support from Chelene. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you, and thank you for that fantastic presentation. Our first question is from Yomi, I believe that's Yomi Shola. So from a startup business viewpoint, how do you see the prospect of data science and analytics in Africa, especially in Nigeria?
Okay, that's a very valid question. So like I said, I mean, all this information, all these tools are all available to you. It's all about what you want to achieve. So it's all about you making up your mind that yes, you've seen a problem and you want to find solutions to that problem. So you go forward, you go upskill, get familiar with the tools you can use. So like I said, imagine you have the Cloud Light account, you can go on there and interact with these different tools, look at the different demos, look at the different product trials, and see how you can use these solutions to come up with, use these services and tools to come up with solutions to those problems and advance, the economy in general and your business as well. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And then for our next question, so Clara had some thoughts. So our postponed summit in May was supposed to address how the travel and tourism sector is not adopting data and artificial intelligence to understand how economically viable these sectors can become if they adopt these tools. How do we change this? We don't even know how many tourists come into Nigeria annually, so I was wondering what your thoughts on this are.
Okay, I would say the baseline. So for the baseline for any data analysis or even coming up with a solution is the data. You need to get that information. So I would say start with doing some research, and you need to actually get that data on the information of tourists. Or for example, you may not have, let's say you don't have for Nigeria. You could actually use other African countries as maybe a case study or just like a platform to just have an estimate of what's the amount of tourists comes into the country, and you can use that as a head start. Use that, put that data into the tools, use that to generate insights and see how you can actually make things better.
Great, thank you. And then we now have a series of questions from Iranki, who wanted to ask her questions verbally.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the training that we just had, and a lot of questions on my mind concerning my business. I run a school. We've been running that school for the past 6 years. And just like you said about collecting data, when COVID started, we had to quickly go online. And then we found out that not so many of our parents wanted the online classes. In fact, by the time we looked at it, I was the one that came up with the number. I found out that less than 20% of our students were actually following up. And the teachers spend so much time and energy working on all of these things, their lessons and all, to only have just less than 20%. So we had to quickly come up with a solution, which we are working on and which has been working for us. That's about 80% of our parents are now coming to school every week to pick up their worksheets. So they prefer the worksheets to online, and their problem is data. They say they spend so much on data, downloading the lessons that we send to them, so that they are no longer interested. They don't want the online. And so we are doing paperwork for them every week, which is okay. And now my questions concerning what we just learned today. This, the IBM, is it a software? I'm supposed to believe it's a software, and that from this software we can create apps. These are my questions. Is it software of which we can create apps from the software?
Okay, okay, I'm listening to your questions. So that's one. Do you have other ones, or I could just respond one after the other? Okay, let me just address this one first.
Okay,
then
all
we
right.
can go to your next question. Okay, so yes, it is online, because I mean the whole point of having that digital moving into digital space is about embracing the cloud. So this gives access to, it means different people from wherever you are in the world. I mean, what we're even doing now is we're actually leveraging that. So wherever you are in the world, you have access to this information. You can have effective collaboration. So it's online, like I said, with the link that WeConnect has provided. All you have to do is go on that link, you sign up. You just need an email account to be able to access this, and then you have free access to the IBM cloud. So you're not downloading or buying any app. All the apps are made there for you. It's like you have a workshop that has all the softwares, all the services there that you need to work with. And you're going to be, it's not like you're not downloading them to your laptop. You're doing everything on the cloud. So everything you're going to do, everything you're working with is on the cloud.
Okay, so are you saying I can create an app if I want to, or I'll have to pay for that service?
Yeah, so you can create an app if you want to. So you can create, like, if you want to create a chatbot, create a mobile application or web application, you can do that online. But mind you, if at some point you're trying to extract it out, for example. So what we're trying to promote is the learning, give you that learning, help you be able to understand, take you from that process. But from the point where you want to probably go monetize it, for example, for your business or anything, to take it out, you would obviously have to, pay to take that out. But the entire learning process, the building process, is completely free.
Okay, all right then. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And our next question is from Mope. So she says, thank you for a very insightful presentation. I'd like to know how you've dealt with the issue of even gathering the raw data if it's unstructured in businesses, particularly services-based, that are not so aware of the impact that data could have on their business.
Okay, so gathering, unstructured data, like I said, 80% of, the data we work with is unstructured because it gives the most insight. So just look at things like your social media posts. You could go on Twitter, go on Instagram, and you see what people are saying maybe about a particular subject matter. And then from that, you could actually download them. So how do you actually go about that extracting? That's where, like I said, goes back to the tools. You need to use certain softwares to be able to extract that information. So all those are provided for you. That IBM Cloud-like account, you can use that and be able to do all that.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a question from Guy. Thank you for the presentation. Can we use data predictive analytics to predict the outcome of a construction project?
So yes, but like I said, it's all you have to keep in mind what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to predict the outcome, it will be based on certain. It's basically like when we talk about different technologies, garbage in, garbage out. So there will be certain factors. Like going back to when the Girl Scouts, they had to take in certain factors that had to do with that outcome. So it would be dependent on the different factors. So what do you have in place? What kind of structure are you coming up with? What have you put in place to ensure an effective, construction? What materials are you using? So it's all about what you have. So when we talk about the data, is the ground rule. The information you have is what makes the entire analysis and what enables you to be able to predict the outcome.
Fantastic, thank you. And we have another question. If 80% of data are from unstructured sources, how predictive are the results since this can be so subjective? Also, are there any DIY tools for analyzing data without contracting a data analyst?
Okay, so I'll take it from the DIY tool. So that's what I mentioned earlier on from the last video. I mean, you don't necessarily, when people think about data science, you think, okay, I have to code and do this in Python and so forth. But with the tools, the way we have designed our softwares and our services from IBM, it makes it easier for you. Like I said, it's more about drag and drop. It's just having the general concept in mind and the understanding. So, I mean, obviously you have to have that general understanding of what data science analytics is, what you're trying to achieve. But in terms of, you're not going to have to, be coding or doing all that more extensive, work. It's just it's simplified for you. And, those codes are actually made available to you on the platform. So it's basically do it yourself. So yeah, it just makes the experience seamless and easier for everyone, especially non-technical people.
Thank you. And then from Ifeolua, do you have solutions for small scale businesses? So all the examples seem to be for big businesses. Could a mom and pop shop or a local farmer use these services?
Okay, so yeah, the solutions are in for small businesses. Like I said, it's all about what you're trying to achieve. The solutions can be leveraged, for any business you want. It's all about you. I mean, obviously, if it's a large scale, you can. That's the good thing about even having the cloud and why we've actually used the cloud and why the cloud is very effective, because it allows you to be able to scale from small to big. So even if you say you start with a small business and it keeps on growing later to a large business, you can always scale up, scale down effectively and seamlessly. That's one of the advantages that the cloud applications provide. So that's not a problem. You can use the same softwares for small or large businesses.
Great, thank you. Okay, I believe those are all the questions we've received. Thank you everyone for your fantastic questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Erin, for anchoring the question and answer session. Thank you, Aminat, for those brilliant answers. Thank you very, very much. I'd like to also reiterate that the link you can see on your screen right now is a special URL graciously provided by IBM to reconnect and reconnect members, strictly in Africa, of course. http://ibm.biz/WECONNECT, that's reconnect-DNA. It gives you access to the DNA platform. It also gives you access to the free IBM Cloud account. You can, when you log in, you create your account, you can go in there, play around and begin to work out on the areas that you think you need to build your capacity. Now, I have to quickly announce that we have the final episode of this mini series coming up on Friday, 1 p.m. Nigerian time, 2 p.m. South African time, and 3 p.m. East African time. That particular webinar is my favorite. I love this particular webinar, but that particular webinar is my favorite. It's talking about artificial intelligence. Now, if you exist in today's time, you use artificial intelligence to a particular point. However it is you do it, unless of course you live somewhere in a cave, somewhere like that. But if you use your mobile phone, you use your devices, you're using artificial intelligence to a particular point. How can this apply to your business? How can you use artificial intelligence to enhance your business performance, to grow your business. Now, Aminat will also be anchoring that session on Friday. And I would like Aminat to, in closing, to give us a very short statement on what we should expect in that webinar. But before she does that, let me point out something that we just learned in the course of the webinar. People that will have the most impact in the future, and not just in the future, in today's time, are those that know what to do with data. I like that to resonate with us because we don't really use data the way we need to use data in Nigeria. And we can see it across multiple fields. Now, people that will have the greatest impact, and if we look across the world, those have the biggest impact in today's time, is the capacity to use, acquire data, interpret, analyze data, and then use that data to your advantage. Now, I was speaking to a team and I was asking a team of young programmers, coders, and I asked them, have you looked at the trajectory as regards communication within and post-COVID-19? The amount of revenue going to companies that have communication links like Zoom and stuff like that. Now, being able to analyze that kind of information and build out something will be hugely successful. And I think it's important for us to understand that that's what we've learned from Aminat is very, very important and very, very true. People that will have the most impact in today's time and in the near future are those that know what to do with data. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, ladies from across the world. We have people from different countries there. I would like to thank Erin and Charlene for being on this, and especially Aminat. And Aminat, could you, in closing, tell us what to expect in the webinar for Friday?
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you. I was quite happy to be here today. So we're focusing on artificial intelligence. I know a lot of people think about AI and they think, yeah, machines are here to replace us. So I'm going to be, replacing and, changing that bias. So we know that, yes, machines aren't here to replace us. It's more about the collaboration with man and machine. So how can we be able to do more? How can they assist us? Because in the end, they can't do anything we don't program them to do. Like I said before, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's what you give it that it can then give you back. So it's you who is training that machine. So, and even when these machines, yeah, they do replace some certain roles or, take over that, but it's still human beings. You still need human beings to be able to facilitate or maintain those different roles or those machines that are doing those things. So I think, yeah, in a nutshell, we'll just look at, real life case studies, see how it's been applied and just see how, things are changing with artificial intelligence.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Aminat. Thank you everybody for attending this fantastic webinar. We hope to see you on Friday. In closing, once again, Reconnect International is in partnership with IBM for this Digitize with IBM mini-series, 3-part mini-series, which runs Monday, Wednesday, that's today, and Friday. IBM is a global tech corporation with immense capacity and experience, and is providing access to the DNA platform using our special link that's provided as part of this program. Reconnect International identifies, certifies women businesses and connects them to opportunities with training across the world from our corporate partners and members, IBM being one of our key members. I'd like to thank you all once more for attending this webinar. So Charlene, Erin, and Aminat, could you just tell our participants bye-bye?
All right, bye everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.